Hello, everyone. It's Ask a Witch.
Yo, yo.
Oh, we've just finished the podcast episode. I feel a bit tired now, to be fair. Asking, Chris all about which goddess would beat up which goddess and all of that. It was quite a heated debate, wasn't it?
It was a little bit.
Okay, so obviously this is a Q&A, so feel free to ask us whatever you want to ask us in regards to magic and the like. But today our main focus is, of course, Witch Wars 3, which we will be announcing later at the end of the show. But mainly we're going to focus on talking about spirits and courting spirits. Now, my nan still uses the term courting, but for the younger people that may be listening, what does that mean, Chris?
I like courting. I like that.
Well, you're
That's
old,
nice
though, aren't you? So you would.
Rude. Yeah, getting to know and wooing. There you go. There's another old one. Wooing.
Getting a spirit to put out, in other words. You want a certain something, and the spirit needs to give its permission. So you wine and dine the spirit. Now, some would say this is a lot like courting a people and dating people because you think I like the looks of that one. I'm gonna invite that one out, and I'm gonna nice 3-course meal offering. Give them some food, give them some booze. Well, I see a lot of that in the magical community, Chris, when they're trying to wine and dine and please the spirits. They give them a bit of booze and give them a bit of food. Now, is the idea of this
a lot of them like
offerings,
cigars.
is the idea of this to fatten the spirits up so that they're all happy and jovial, or is it in order to get the spirits pissed up so they don't really know what they're doing? Because that is a classed as date rape, isn't it?
It is technically.
Technically. Is it possible to do that to a spirit?
Some of the lesser spirits, definitely.
On the astral world, apparently so. But in the physical world, we're talking. Physical world.
Not in the physical world, no.
No.
You'd have to
do an evocation.
It'd have to be layered up.
Technically, with this whole possession thing, because if you listen to that podcast about possession that we did, there was a certain question posed about if someone's possessed and then they have sex and you didn't give permission for that spirit to have sex in your body. Anyway, we'll go into we've already talked about that on the podcast, so you'll have to listen to our backlog of podcasts to go into that. But let's start talking about the spirits and that. So, courting a spirit, we can make certain assumptions. One is a spirit we've never worked with before or don't really know. So it's out of the blue. We're wanting to contact a spirit and make friends with that spirit. I'm presuming is because you want some nookie. And by nookie, what I mean is you want it to do something for you. Okay, so whether it's that go after your enemies, whether it's a go out and bring me in some money or something, I don't know what it is, but the spirit is going to do a job for you. So, in terms of this thing, Chris, how does one go about doing it?
Of course, I'm going to have to answer it. Well, it
I'm
really
presuming
depends
we're
on the
not
type
doing
of
the
spirit.
Yahweh method. The Lesser Kiev Solomon method is a bit basically like forcing yourself upon a person, is it not? And threatening them at knife point down a dark alley. That's how I equate it anyway.
Much.
I don't think that's appropriate, and I don't like to teach that method.
No, it's problematic. But that's down to how the Yahweh method works, which is that you either have to allure it or scare it. Either way, it's kind of rapey. Whereas, because you're not really giving any choice to the actual spirit itself. And obviously, surely the idea of courting is that you're going to convince them that you are a good option, rather than actually saying, I am the option and you're coming this way. Like, smell the cloth.
Is the cloth? Is there such a thing as rehypnol for spirits, Chris?
Yeah, they
Can you
call it
get him to smell a
ambrosia, don't they?
cloth?
Don't they call it ambrosia?
Ambrosia.
The god
Ambrosia,
of
also known
nectar.
as retinal for spirits. Okay, so let's
Don't
go
they?
for a nicer way. So the whole idea of a whining and dining is to make them like you, yeah? To make them think
Yes.
that, well, actually, this is a reciprocal relationship. There's a person, this magician or witch is giving me something, which makes me inclined to like them and give something back. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what is some of the most, you know, nice little gifts and the like that you can give to a spirit then? Because surely, much like people, is going to depend. Because some people you might take to a nice fine dining restaurant, but others you might want to take to a biker bar. Because the people that might
Yeah.
go to the biker bar might not want to go to the Ivy.
Yeah. The ivy
And
doesn't
Carol,
work for
she
most
just wants
people.
to go dogging in the woods. Wait a minute, let
Stop
me
talking
check
about
there's no one
Diana.
called Carol in the
Why are you talking
comments.
about Diana
No,
again?
there's no
I
one
thought
called
we were
Carol in the
over that.
comments. If there is at any point, we're not talking about you.
No, it sounds like you're talking about Diana again. I thought we were over
Oh,
that.
Diana.
Poor Diana. Because that car crash didn't go very well. That's not the right way to do dogging.
Chris,
Sorry.
I don't know what you think docking is, but that ain't it.
Well, waving your ass in the glass window and then going smashing into something. Is that not what dogging is?
No, the ass don't go through the window.
Okay. Okay. That's what I'm
What's
doing
the ass
wrong.
goes through another window? It don't work like that, Chris. For those that don't know and have never listened to the us from the Thoth Witchcraft shop, we are extremely rude, and those with a sensitive disposition, or those that are easily offended, and possibly not so easily offended, may wish not to watch or listen because you may get hashtag triggered. That's a thing, Chris, isn't it? Hashtag. Did I
Yeah.
use it right
Do,
this
do we
time?
get one of those? I think we get one of those disclaimers that runs across the bottom. You
I
may be
think we
offended.
did have one. There was one at one point. Oh, that was it. It was the Keep On Chatting, Keep Paranormal Network when we were doing the Feisty Witches show. They
Oh,
put
yeah,
one
yeah.
on for us.
Yeah, they put one on for us. Anyway, sorry, we're staying off topic again. What was the question? We weren't talking about dogging. What happened before dogging?
I don't know. Is it two G's in triggered or one?
2 G's in dogging, yeah. Well, technically
No,
there's 3.
triggered.
Oh, triggered.
Did you just say free because we were chatting about triple goddesses and free's on your mind now?
A little bit, a little bit. I was thinking you were trying to spell dogging, whereas obviously triggered, yeah, 2 G's.
Okay, right. I
But
say
no,
it to
anyway,
scroll.
what was the actual subject? We were talking about courting.
There we go. Don't listen if you're easily hashtag triggered. Okay? Yeah, whining and dining the spirits, selecting because you don't know, right? So when you're
Okay,
dating, and I'm
sorry,
terrible at
back to
dating,
the
so
actual
don't take
topic
dating
again.
advice from me. When you're dating, you make observations, or you basically really have to make a guess, don't you, as to whether the person you think is going to like the place you take them out on a date. So you might think, well, average people meet at Cabot Circus and they'll go to Frank and Bennett's or Cole, which is a steak place. But at the same time, you might take that person that you're going out on a date with to the steak place, and they might be someone that's vegetarian and not like the idea of a steak joint and might get offended and then say this is a terrible date. But you didn't know that. You've got to take risks, haven't you? When
Yeah,
contacting spirits or when dating people, one has to take risks. But always meet
definitely.
in a public place. What does meeting in a public place mean when it comes to spirit evocation and invocation, though, Chris?
So a safe place would be a public place. Sorry, not a safe place, a public place. A public place would be anywhere kind of like in the garden where other people passing by might see you.
So if you're a neo-pagan and you're doing a sky-clad ritual trying to evoke a spirit, you're telling them to do it in the front garden so that more people can see you. Is that what you're saying? Because I
No,
was
no, no.
opting more
No, I
for
was
a,
talking.
you
I
know,
went straight. I went straight to astral. You always talk about the
astral.
garden. You always talk about the garden, don't you?
Yeah, the garden's like the
When we,
dream state,
yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah,
And the
yeah, yeah,
astral's outside of the garden. That's like the road that your house
yeah,
is
yeah.
on.
Yeah. So that's what I was talking about. The garden, dreamscaping. It's a pretty
Right.
public, safe place to do.
So you're saying to meet them in the astral world.
In the
So what
garden,
you're saying is don't bother invoking or evoking until you master astral projection, astral travel. Is that
pretty
really what you're
much.
saying, Chris?
Pretty much.
Oh, come on. But that's so elitist. That's practically gatekeeping.
But that's what I do, isn't it? I is the super witch.
Yes, well, could we maybe put something out for some of the beginners, the sort of people that collect
Oh,
mythology books or Scott Cunningham books, and a flick through 'em and say, I like the idea of that. I don't think
what?
anyone's worked with Bridget before. I'll try conjuring that up.
You think people that base all their knowledge on mythology should be evoking goddesses? Is that what you're actually saying, Liam?
No, I'm saying that there's a lot of people out there that their idea of research would be to read some mythology and then to read some shite that Llewellyn, the publishing company, has come out with, and then leave some whiskey or some booze for a spirit, and maybe, I don't know, leave one of those spirits of the Goetia some lean mean grilling machine steak or something. Is that a good idea?
No, not really.
Why is it not a good idea?
Well, one, you don't know if they like that, how they like their steak. There's nothing wrong in giving someone the wrong kind of steak.
Would you not use that thing that I'm always accused of doing? Being presumptuous and stereotypical and saying,
I am.
well, that creepy biker dude, he'll like his steak rare because he's a creepy biker dude. That demon is bad
No,
boy, therefore he's probably gonna like his steak rare, you know?
I,
Whereas
I don't like to do any
actually,
of that.
Diana, I think I might give her some lettuce. A Greek salad.
Okay.
She'll like that.
Because that bitch needs to go on a diet. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
She's all gluttonous, like all, she's starting to look like those new agers that feed her.
well, to be fair, that does make sense. Maybe I've never actually
You
thought
are
of
what
it
you
like
eat.
that. If a lot of New Agers, do you think the reason that they tend to give food offerings is because that's what they would want themselves? Because I
Possibly.
thought it was more to do with obviously you eat and you take people out for dinner and all that kind of thing. It's kind of like a human thing, isn't it? Same
I
with
suppose.
water and to a certain extent, if you're alcoholic wine, can't live without it. So you know, I kind of think I'll give that to the spirits as an offering. You know, it makes sense back in the day because it would have been a super important thing, wouldn't it? Really, food, never
Yeah,
enough
but
of it.
that was down to a different kind of approach. So with that kind of traditional approach, you're talking about giving you're talking about treating them like humans. So
Mm.
that was the cultural way of doing things. So it meant you would feed them, you would clothe them, you would provide a house for them, i.e., a temple, or some kind of home shrine, which would be shaped in some way, shape, or form like a house. It would have a roof, it would have shelter, it would have strong walls, it would be warm. Hence the candles. That's the whole point of the candles, not actually anything to do with the magic. The whole point of the candles was about keeping the space warm, and creating a light and warm space.
But
So
Chris, everyone knows that ghosts like the cold.
so we're not talking about ghosts.
Well, they're a type of spirit. I
Oh, okay.
certainly think when it comes to human spirits and dead human spirits, it probably there would be the best ones to give tobacco and booze and food to, if I'm honest. I think that go down
Okay.
particularly well the cigarettes with my family.
Well, yeah. But then yeah. I'm not
I
going to say
mean,
anything about those.
the the longest my nan went out without a cigarette is after she died. And even then, she still smokes because the people leave offerings of smokes to her. So she didn't even quit while she were dead.
Yeah. Some habits will get you.
So, okay, so we have got a little comment, so I'll put that up. So Alex says, I do it because I learned about through hoodoo and voodoo. I have seen prepare whole extra meals at dinner just for the spirits they are working with. I'm not sure if it's the best approach, but I have heard it works. Like we do the dump supper, don't we, once a year, which is revolving around helping people contact and communicate with dead people. And like I said, dead people, dinner, they were human, things that are relevant to a human life, they'll be able to recognize. But what about when it comes to conjuring up the Morrigan, Chris? Will a Greek salad?
She ain't big on eating.
Will the Morrigan? What will the Morrigan do for a Greek salad?
Probably throw it at you.
And if you give her a Greek salad, is she inclined to say, "There ain't no fucking Greeks in this. Where's the Greeks?"
Yeah, basically, yeah. Where's the meat? No, she likes blood and tears. They both work for the Morrigan. Okay, I'm gonna say my safest option, which is what I would always go for if we're going to talk about beginners. The safest offering, funnily enough, is intention.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
By that I mean your
Sorry,
hopes
I'll
and dreams.
compose myself.
Your hopes and dreams. They will eat your hopes and dreams. Sorry. Okay. My real answer was going to be spring water is the one I often go for. I think we both agree that that is a safe option. It holds energy, but also the fact that water is the only element on all planes of existence. All universes have water. Not all of it you can drink,
So
but it is all there.
Do I need to go to Tesco's and buy me some Highland spring water? And if I do, can I make it as part of a meal deal so I don't really pay for the spring water? Or do I have to go and collect the spring water myself? And if it exists in all places, then can I not just go to the tap and get some from the tap? Because I don't feel like going to Tesco's this time of night. It's almost 8:30.
No, but this is what I meant by eating intention, is by collecting it yourself, you are charging that with the work that has been put in. So this is what I meant by eating intention. So I wasn't totally joking, but I knew it would set you off by me using the I word.
So what do they care more about then, Chris? Do they care more about the physical substance of water? Do they care more about you giving them something? Or do they care more about the fact that you fell over on the way to collect the spring water, having gone so far out of your way, and now you're bleeding because of it? What do they care most about?
Effort.
Effort. So effort or sacrifice, really.
Yeah.
Is that the quickest way to a spirit's heart, you think, is it? To show that you're willing to go out of your way and that you appreciate it that much?
Yeah. It's about the actual thought of the process, that you've done something out of the ordinary. So in order to actually consider it, at the end of the day, you're wanting an extraordinary connection. How do you get an extraordinary connection? By doing something extraordinary for you. Now that might be that you have to drive 100 miles for it, or it might be that you have to walk down to the local well. But at the end of the day, you still got to go out of your way to collect something for them. So, traditional sacrifice was giving a share of something that was worthy to you. This day and age, where everything is at the end of the fingertips, thanks to our mate Jeff Bezos, you don't really have to try for anything. So by going out of your way in order to collect something that is technically a free resource, but the actual effort is the actual that you've gone out of your way to go and collect it, will actually get you a lot further than you going and buying some expensive Cubans on the internet in order to give that to Papa Legba. So, you know, it really depends on how you work.
Alex makes an interesting point. So, as opposed to bribing the spirits with food and booze, can you ask them if there's anything you can do for them, like in the physical world instead? Now, this I think is really interesting because it kind of comes to the point of, if I'm dating someone, instead of picking where we go for the first date, I could actually say, where shall we go for the first date? What do you want? You know? So with spirits and that, would it be more appropriate to do a kind of meet and greet first, where you conjure them up or evoke them first to find out what they would want? Because I think there's kind of this idea of a one-hit wonder I'm seeing in modern magic, whereby I'm not going to bother ever speaking to the spirit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick something on an altar and I'm going to put a petition there and I'm going to say, please do this for me. Here's your payment. When that spirit's like, bitch, please. I've never spoken to you before. And what the fuck is this? Why do I want this? I'm just going to ignore you. Or what about the occasions where we find that they say, oh, I left this offering for this spirit and it did the thing and then it took my, well, it took my ante, or it took this, or it took that, because you didn't pay enough.
You didn't pay enough.
So, yeah. The idea of guessing what the spirit wants, I think, is pretty flawed. Obviously you can do that if you know the spirit, but it's getting to know it first. That's what we're talking about today. Some things you can kind of make an educated guess too, because it might be something that's relevant to them. I find most of the time when working with spirits, you want to work with the ones that want to work with you. So really it's a case of, once you work on your psychic development and being able to contact them, you negotiate before the work gets done. I once had to do 100 push-ups to get Mars to do something for me. That kind of makes sense when you think about it. I had to sweat for it. And at the time, I couldn't do 100 push-ups. So I actually had to work up with it. I think it took me like a good couple of weeks to get up to that, being able to do them all at once, which is what I told.
Yeah.
Because
Which
having a
actually
rest
means
in
you've done
between them all.
hundreds of
Well, I
push-ups,
did try and
not
have a rest
100.
between them all, and they said, no, that isn't acceptable, which was a bit of a shame, really. But I got there in the end, and I got what I wanted. But that was a negotiation, you see. And looking back, it does make sense as to why that would be. But I'm not seeing a lot of people discussing this or thinking about it in these terms.
Yeah.
But is that to do with all the books and them saying,
yeah,
this is the offering, this is the connotations, this is the correspondences for this? Oh, this goddess is a moon goddess, and she likes this crystal, and she likes that plant and that herb. I know what I'll do. I'll do what the Llewellyn book did, and I'll wait for the right moon phase and stick all that shite outside in the full moonlight with a little piece of paper I wrote in ever such a pretty purple pen, because purple is the color of the moon.
Okay. So the one thing I want to pull out there, that I think is another thing that people mess up on, is thinking that correspondence are based on what they like.
It is based on what they like, but they is not the spirit. They is the author of the book, or blood press you wrote.
Those are about how you connect to the energy. So even when they've used those correspondences are how you connect to an energy source. They have nothing to do with what they like or dislike. So, which is what I kind of confuse. What, bearing in mind, this is one author's, like you say, interpretation, or collectively a group of authors. But actually, what I get from that is the fact that there is this miscommunication, as this list of correspondences gives me all the answers I need about that specific deity, energy source, zodiac, planet. really doesn't matter what, but apparently a set of correspondences is all you need to work with any of these things.
So Julie said, I don't get that. I think it's nice to just give when I think about it for no real reason other than it's what friends do, I guess. Now, there's a couple of things that we should pick up on, I think, here. One is that you're referring to it as a friend, which means this isn't a new spirit. This is something that you actually have some sort of working relationship with. So what we're really talking about is new spirits. The second is that sounds a bit devotional, Chris. So that sounds a bit like religious or devotion. It's a case of there's a lot of obviously people that would say magical practitioners that what they do is they raise energy and give it to spirits. They go and they do a lot of petition work and this and that. Not really what we're talking about in regards to witchcraft. Most of the time what we're talking about is obviously getting to the stage where you can develop a relationship with the spirit, or you're wanting the spirit to do something for it. So devotional practices is kind of outside of the scope that we're talking about today, because we wouldn't really consider that to be witchcraft. It's certainly not the thing that we're aiming for. You know, you can meet many people that are religious and they go to church or they go to the, I don't know, shrine or whatever, and they leave things. It's not really our, you know, where our approach is. Our approach is, of course, coming from a perspective of we're witches, we need to get something done, we're going to get something else to do the job for us, or we want to learn from something, so we're going to develop a relationship or something like that. But in terms of obviously, if you're just leaving offerings and not wanting to develop a relationship with a spirit, you're not wanting to learn anything, you're not wanting it to do anything, you're just leaving offerings for it, kind of a little bit more devotional. Personally, I don't see the purpose of it, because if you're gonna leave offerings for a spirit and never bother to work with it, never bother to communicate with it, I don't really see why you're doing that. But I know that it is a thing that gets done, I think, Chris, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're being a little bit harsh, but I get what you're saying. In the kind of realms of what we're talking about is introductory, getting to know, and then from that developing your arrangement. So, you know, if this is an arrangement where you give mineral water on a regular basis, to keep honouring, there is a slight difference between honouring and worship. But yeah, it's making sure that you arrange that arrangement, which is that you know what that rapport is for. If it's maintaining and accepted, but this is what we mean, is that we're talking about getting to the point where you have that understanding, which I think is what Julie's talking about, is you have that understanding of this particular spirit, this is how I work with them. That's fine. What we're talking about is kind of when you first introduce yourself, what the set kind of protocols are.
Yeah.
So, and avoiding things like I said, correspondences which don't really tell you anything, or basing something on somebody else's experience. You know, it's all well and good you kind of reading a little bit about them and getting to know what is written out there and kind of trying to make a judgment on what you think is a safe starting point. But that to me is no different than, you know, oh, that bloke that's just started at work seems to know that guy quite well. I'll go and talk to that guy about them and see what they like. So if that's the approach you're taking, that's fine, as long as you can trust the source that you're taking it from. And that's what it'll come down to, is kind of going, okay, well, what does, you know, this practitioner that only deals in shamanic relationships know about demons? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so if you're going to go and base what you offer in the first meeting, you know, at the end of the day, what they do say, first impressions can say a lot. So, you know, you are introducing yourself to somebody that you are hoping to work at and work with going forward. the last thing you want to do is offend them if you're hoping to have some kind of relationship with them, especially if you're going for some high level deity. But at the end of the day, it's about that. This is your introductory working with them. This is the first time you're meeting them. What do you think is a safe option to give them? Like I say, spirit water, mineral water collected from a spring of some description has that property of going, this is the intention is the bit that's there, what you went out and set yourself to do, the sacrifice is there. It's a simple water thing, but at the end of the day, that simple water has a universal understanding. It's like you having one of these what's those Star Trekky
like a com badge
that allows you to at least speak the same language. So that water is a conduit for exactly that, which is why it's a safe option. The same way, if you know a particular type of spirits that you want to work with, the next one we always talk about is graveyard dirt. If you're wanting to access a spirit that is within that realm of the death current, then already a starting point. The same way as if you were going to speak with a mercurial spirit, then you probably want to find a way of handing them knowledge. Having a joke or a witty banter is going to get you a lot further than handing them graveyard dirt. So it's kind of, if you can know something about that type of spirit, because you know where it fits on the periodic table, then that allows you to have some kind of insight into what they're likely to like as an introductory gift. Moving on beyond that, you then establish a relationship and a rapport, and you have an option to, do that.
Are you going to give a fire elemental an offering of water?
Well, yes, still. The reason for that being is the fact that actually, it is there. It's something that it can heat and cool.
Well, what happens when you throw water on a chip pan fire, Chris?
Exactly, it gets a lot bigger.
It spreads. So it might not necessarily be such a terrible idea after all. Depends on the circumstances.
Well done for trying to trip me up. There is nothing wrong with my logic.
So obviously Julie says about back in the beginning, at first she just kind of used to throw stuff at it hoping it works, because I think that from her perspective, from taking that approach is what I see a lot of beginners do. I think now she sounds like she's got a rapport with certain spirits, so that she keeps up that relationship, kind of like with a friend. You often invite them out. Oh, do you want to go out for tea? I'll pay, sort of thing. Or should we grab a drink? Do you want to go out for drinks, sort of thing? That's a little different, because that's an ongoing thing, isn't it? With something that randomly giving people food and walking up to them on the street, or really what you're talking about is some weirdo following you around, giving you food all the time when you wander down the local town centre, you'd probably be a little bit creeped out about that. So that's kind of, look at it from the other perspective. Alex says, except, is the spirit really your friend, or are you more like a client, like Liam and Chris's Thoth Witchcraft Patreon? Because I think there's some spirits that I definitely work with that is, I don't want to be their friend. I don't have much in common with them. They don't serve much of a purpose for me. But every now and then I might get them to do something for me. And that would be a client professional relationship. However, there are certain things that, because we're very similar, I suppose, we both want the same thing, we're both working towards a goal. Normally the relationship there is, if it asks me for something, it's because it needs that to get the job done. So we have an existing relationship and we're working towards something. It doesn't really care much about me putting effort in, because we're on the same page and we're working towards something. All it cares about is me doing my bit to make the project succeed. And I don't know if I class that as an
Yeah.
offering or a sacrifice, because it's kind of,
No, that's a group effort.
yeah.
It's where you're both offering something to the arrangement. You know, like Julie's regular water is there is a rapport there. Therefore, when it comes to wanting to work together, you wouldn't probably need to pay because it's not a pay as you go arrangement. Um, so it's one of those things where, as often these are the relationships that are created with altar spaces. So
Mm,
these are the ones where you offer all year round in the hope that when you do need them, that it's a lesser tariff. Whereas actually, what we're talking about is actually getting to know them and knowing actually, do I need to offer anything? Possibly not. If you're, this is where we did talk about it with the Andromalia stuff when we gave some hints in the first one when we launched it, where you're talking about, okay, well, one way round having to pay a tariff is down to the fact that you do something that they will enjoy doing. So that the fact that actually, if it suits their purpose and their remit, why would they need paying? Because actually, you're just helping them tick a box that they would have gone and ticked anyway. You're just asking them to tick it at a different time.
So, of all of the spirits that you work with, the first time you worked with them or the first time you met them, did it involve any form of altar setup or giving any kind of offering? Now, that's a question.
No,
No. So,
which is the
how does
other
it
group,
work then for you? How did it work?
which is the other group that we haven't kind of touched on yet. Is the fact that actually there are lots of spirits that would choose to work with you if you are practicing at a high enough level. And I don't mean as in high low magic. I mean a case of how hard are you working within a particular energy stream. So if you start to work, I don't know, the death current a lot, then you're likely to get noticed by deities that are within that stream. So if you are regularly walking around graveyards and playing with the energy there is a likelihood that you're going to meet those sorts of deities. Santa Muerte or Hecate with the crossroads situation, or Anubis. Or I never see Hades there, but you occasionally see Chiron.
Hmm.
Hades, you'd have to try a little bit different. Hell demons don't, hell dimensions and death current are not the same thing. I don't know why I felt the need to define that, but I think lots of people make the confusion about the two.
So, from your way of working with them, you tend to go for the place that they hang out, I suppose. So, if I want a good plumber, do I go on the internet? Do I look in the yellow pages? Because there are plumbers on the internet and in the yellow pages. But I tell you where you would find a lot of plumbers. Go to the locals plumbers merchant or plumbers wholesaler, because all of that all day is plumbers going in and out. So
Yeah,
it might not be so much about you going out and trying to find one in various different places. It might be a case of, well, what sort of spirit you want to work with, and then encountering them in a place where you're likely to find them. So, and I think that's your perspective. I would imagine you're probably similar to me. You either know where to go to find a spirit because you know where they'd hang out, which it comes with, the different realms and the like. Or you think, okay, I'm going off on an adventure. I'm going to go and scale a mountain. You start scaling the mountain and you bump into things also climbing that mountain. And you think, well, let's work together to get to the top of the mountain. So you're not really going there to find the person. You're going on your journey, but you're finding other things similarly on your journey. So. So a question from Alex again. I'm curious, what have the most unusual offerings a spirit you guys have worked with has asked for? That is an interesting question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because it's rare for them to ask for an offering. There's normally an arrangement already kind of half there. I don't think I've done more of the kind of ask. It's often a
Yeah, I was going
favor
to say,
exchange.
I think that one of the more unusual ones for me, there was a strict client relationship, reciprocation, was that spirit I worked with for a money working wanted a percentage of the profit I made from that money work, and it was influencing an event, and they said they wanted the money. So I made the assumption that what they're going to want me to do is just burn it or get rid of it or whatever. So when the thing happened and I got the money, it was a bit casino magic. I came back and I said, well, this is yours, I shall burn it as an offer. And they said, no. What I want done with it is I want it put into blue bags and I want it given out to everyone you see sitting down in a location. And that location happened to be around the area where that casino was that I made a big windfall, or the spirit helped me. And it happened to be, which was quite interesting, that this was in Bristol, and I did meet people that were sat down on a weeknight. This was, so it wasn't like during the weekend, it wasn't that busy, but they were homeless people. So what I was doing was actually I found minus I think one, maybe two. I gave little blue bags with money to homeless people. Don't think I'm charitable. I didn't decide to do that. That was what the spirit wanted. Okay.
Oh, look at you worried about your reputation.
So don't be thinking I'm all of a sudden a goody goody, because I ain't.
Okay.
But I will keep up my end of the bargain. But there is an interesting point for that, because what if the spirit then turned around and said, well, I want you to directly finance terrorism with that money? What would you do then? Because you're not keeping up your part of the bargain. You'd have to do it, or you'd have to break that contract technically. So that was something that I learned very early on, which was to make sure you be out the
If you'd have
small
known they were
print.
wanting you to give the money out, you'd have probably gone, no, I'm not the charity type. So
Yeah. I don't do the money out. I've given it to you. I would probably turn around if it was something bad, and I'd have said, look, I've got the money for you. This is yours. That is extra work for me. That isn't in our contract for me to, move the money. I just generate the money. I do not move it. But obviously it was something easy enough for me to do. Plus I gained the reputation there, not so much the spirit.
Yeah. I don't so much consider it to be unusual, but most of mine are
It's unusual for me.
most of mine are not unusual. They might be unusual to people listening, but I don't consider it to be unusual. Most of mine are connections. So it'll be a case of spirit wants access to someone, which I don't consider that to be odd, because professional witch and all, connecting people up is kind of what we do. But whereas some people would probably find that a really odd, might find that odd, but a lot of things spirits will ask for from me is, oh, I want to contact that person.
What sort of spirits are these? Are these dead people, or ones presumably spirits that struggle to contact humans?
No, what mine will be when it comes down to the person in question not being able to get their access point right. So kind of a door opening arrangement. So it's more a case of going, okay, well, this person needs a nudge in the psychic development area. Just go and give them a nudge. in which case they're then able to find each other afterwards. So, although the answer you were probably expecting was more firstborns and all that, I've done a fair bit of that, but that's normally for my own pleasure rather than
You're
actually.
not supposed to admit that live on the internet, Chris.
Okay, soz. No.
So here's an interesting point. Be nice if there was a spirit Yelp. So like the Yellow Pages and the book with all the telephone numbers and that in. A lot of people would consider that grimoires are that, an attempt to do that, to literally put a bunch of telephone numbers in the form of sigils and names and write a short description about what they do. Some people would consider that to be kind of like a Yelp or Yellow Pages or directory. Other people would say, well, this is very dangerous because who is putting this list together? Can you trust the spirit itself, to be honest, about what it does in it? Is it some sort of a late night infomercial selling you snake oil? Can it be trusted? Or is there someone out there that's putting a bad review under the spirit's name? Like, I don't know, one of Yahweh's cronies that don't like the old folk devil down the road, you know? What could be going on? Would you trust it? If there was a spiritual Yelp, what form would you imagine that to be? And then how would you make sure that it is, not flawed?
Well, I'm not very good with things like TripAdvisor and things like that because I know lots of people are bitter and like to make comments about things that they don't like in a kind of really unhelpful way. So I can't say I'm a big fan of reviews. Whereas lots of other people probably they buy the things that or do the things that have got the best reviews. Whereas, I go on vibe.
What about the publication itself? So do you go by who's publishing the material?
I can do. I'm not saying I don't have bias against things like Llewellyn, but I still have a flick through. Even if it is a book that is written by Llewellyn, because every now and again there's one line in there that kind of goes, "Oh, I forgot about that." That might just trigger a thought, even if it's a bad thing. Like I'm not one of those that believes that everything you should be looking at is great. Like sometimes it's really helpful to read something shit every now and again. What does Anyank call it? Hate reading. Yeah,
hate reading.
Yeah, reading something you're going to hate just to kind of trigger yourself, get the juices flowing, the creative juices flowing.
Right. So is there any more questions or anything else you want to cover, or should we just go straight onto the Witch Wars 3 results?
We can do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what we'll do is we will stop the Ask a Witch now, and then we are going to go into the results for Witch Wars 3. Okay? See you in a minute. Okay, so Witch Wars, as sponsored by thothwitchcraft.com. Now, for those that don't know what Witch Wars is, every couple of months we hold a competition that is called Witch Wars. And we set you witches against each other to try and do something. The first one, of course, we were doing hexing and healing. The second one, we were doing psychic spying. This one, what we tried to get you to do was give you the sigil of a spirit from the Goetia, quote unquote, demon or daemon, and get you to evoke it to do an evocation to summon it into full physical manifestation in front of you and get some information from it. Now, some people may remember that on top of that, for bonus points, we were going to get you to send that spirit potentially after some, well, what would we call them? Scammers, Chris?
Unscrupulous people. Unscrupulous
scammers that were claiming to be psychics, which, let's be fair, you'd have thought that they would see it coming. Probably not. So how do you think people got on with this Witch Wars, Chris? Because I think it was probably the most difficult one we've set so far.
It's definitely the most difficult. It was probably the most kind of what you call it. It kind of separated people off and really gave opportunities for us to see how you guys think, like in a whole new way. Like, you know, we thought we knew you all pretty well, but this really has pushed a new boundary, I think, and made kind of really has tested what you're capable of. Because let's face it, evocation's not one of the easiest things to do. And most of us, you know, rely on invocation, you know, because we were taught to develop psychic ability, and psychic ability makes invocation kind of, you know, really accessible. So, you know, it kind of makes sense for people to use that method. When you then force them to go, okay, I don't want you to use your psychic ability in the same way. I want you to actually conjure. And conjuring is not something that, you know, lots of people are used to doing, I guess. So it's been really interesting.
Do you think evocation and the art of summoning something into manifestation physically, is that a kind of dying art, do you think? Do you think that it's just unpopular now, or that people have kind of lost the ability of how to do that?
I think we're probably in a position where we internalize everything, don't we? So I guess now we overthink everything. So, you know, actually evocation is one of those, oh shit, like that's in front of me. Like so
Scary.
most people don't want that. Whereas in the good old days, that's what you wanted. You wanted to experience it, and you wanted everyone else to experience it too. Group practice. And I think actually on a one-to-one basis, most people don't want that. They want and with so many people now being solitary practitioners, they don't need to share an experience. So I guess, you know, invocation's enough for most of them now.
So obviously many of the people that entered the Witch Wars free competition took very different approaches, didn't they, really? And I'm really proud of the people that obviously we've been mentoring through this, that have tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, the beginners. Because it's been a very strenuous for them. They've really put a lot of effort in, and I think they've really come on leaps and bounds. But which ones kind of spring to mind as being like the ones that stick in your head in terms of approaches and quite interesting approaches that people take? Because, of course, many of them have taken completely the opposite approach to how I would personally do it. So what sticks out for you?
I suppose you're going to hate me because I'll mention this one before you get a chance. but is the Archivist is probably been the
For fuck's
best
sake.
one to watch. And I knew you'd say
The
that,
Archivist.
but that's mainly because it's by far the closest to actually, because I suppose we should say actually this is the first Witch Wars where no one has technically won.
I was going to say that in the end, but yes, no one has won Witch Wars 3, unfortunately. You all got to various different stages. Now, what we'll do is we'll quickly talk about what we're going to do because no one won Witch Wars 3, and then I want to crack into kind of people's methodologies and why we're awarding what we are awarding. So obviously everyone knows that whoever wins Witch Wars 3, it doesn't necessarily have to be one winner, but anyone that manages to complete Witch Wars wins a special prize. This time round, no one managed to do it according to the rules. Okay, now the rules were very simple. The rules were you needed to do an evocation, and then at that evocation, you needed to get Andromalius, the spirit, to tell you the secrets of its sigil. Some people did an invocation and got the secrets of the sigil. Other people managed to do an evocation but didn't get the secrets. And some people tried to do an evocation and failed, and tried to do an invocation and failed. So there were various different degrees, but no one got there according to the rules. However, we are doing this new thing called Thoth points. Some of you already have Thoth points because if you follow us on Instagram, we've been giving out Thoth points on Instagram. And what we'll be doing is we'll be doing a little leaderboard as to who gets Thoth points. And there'll be specific things you can do to get them. And then we'll also, much like house points, we will just be awarding them willy-nilly according to what cool, crazy ass stuff that you do. Okay. So we will be awarding Thoth points for this Witch Wars, which will be based on effort and what people have managed to do. Okay, and I'll go through the leaderboard in a minute. We will be putting up the leaderboard after every monthly Ask a Witch Q&A, and you can see where you're all at. But yes, there are some people on the leaderboard. We will go through it in a minute, and we'll go through obviously what you need to do to get the points. The first, well, it's not really the first. Anyone that gets 1,000 Thoth points will get a prize. It doesn't matter whether you're the first or the 10th or the 100th or the millionth. If you get to eventually 1,000 Thoth points, you will get a prize. What that prize is, I'd like to tell you. I'm not being mysterious, but it's gonna be something on a list which you get to choose. So it's not going to be us like the Witch Wars competition. We reward you with a specific thing. It will be from a list of things. You'll be able to pick your own reward. Okay. And it will be things that are cool. So the Thoth points are coming soon. We will be awarding them. We will announce this, I think, tomorrow, Chris. And we'll also talk about it probably on a couple of podcasts and things. But we will be awarding Thoth points for this Witch Wars. So the Archivist, now, what approach did she kind of take? Because she obviously goes to magic school in the mercurial realm. So she travels off, basically does it a little bit more psychically. And I know her kind of approach was to, well, basically get the people from magic school, or the things that are in the magic school, to go out, find Andromalius, drag him to her so that she could grab him in the astral or mercurial realm, which is adjacent to the astral, and drag him physically back to the physical realm, which is a very interesting approach. And I have to say, it's very much, well, judging by what I understand of her personality, she's quite the firecracker.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Which I don't think we'd have quite discovered if it wasn't for this game, I suppose. Because she's engaged engaged one way or another in all of the levels between now, each Witch Wars. Who actually, really has pushed her astral work to a whole new level, which I think is true of a lot of the people in this round. Is that it's pushed their astral work. So we've got other people that have approached it from an astral point of view also. Have then still struggled with the evocation part, because it's a lot easier to work from the astral and get an invocation. Essentially, it's kind of what we talked about in the first video last month is an evocation invocation, where it's not technically an evocation, but you are getting them to evoke in front of you astrally, which is not the same as
astral evocation.
Yeah, an astral
which
evocation.
is not a full evocation, but she did manage to do it. The archivist managed to do it. Therefore, we are awarding Thoth points. Yeah. Now, we were awarding, I think, 100 Thoth points for managing to do the evocation in the astral world and contacting and communicating with Andromalius. The archivist also, I think, Chris, was the only one that I'm aware of which was actually going to send, for the bonus points, Andromalius off to deal with those scammers, Christian and Mary. Now, I was thinking, if it works out that Andromalius does decide to, let's say, correct the dodgy ways of Mary and Christian, I'm willing to award some bonus Thoth points for that. And I think we said if she manages to do it, if Andromalius does end up taking down Mary and Christian and the website and that, we will award an extra 10 Thoth points. But be assured, the archivist, I know you're out there, you will be getting your 100 Thoth points. We've got a little leaderboard, we've got a spreadsheet, it's all very technical. So well done, the archivist.
Yeah.
So you picked that one. Okay. Now I'm gonna pick with the next one. Who should I pick? Anyanka. Anyanka. Okay. We've got to give a shout out to Anyanka, because Anyanka has tried many times to do the evocation. She tried the first time and she got on, I think, quite well. She was this close to doing it. The atmosphere in the room was changing. There was things that were changing. There were some physical manifestations in the room, but then things kind of collapsed. And I think the problem with Anyanka's approach was that when she had that success, she then changed it. And she's tried to do some research, and this is what a lot of people, I think, Chris, do, is they get so far on their own, and then they think, well, someone else must know more than me. I'm going to go and do some research. And she went in to do some research on evocation and various other things, and that ended up kind of muddying the waters and making it worse, because she was trying to copy and take on board other people's approaches, either not knowing, because we don't know exactly which one she went for or where she found the information, but I would imagine some of it was bullshit and some of it wasn't her natural approach to magic, so she was kind of trying to copy someone else's system.
I think a few of them had this problem, which is common.
Oh, I can't hear you.
I said there's quite a common thing with evocation.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if he's gone or not.
I don't know.
Carry on talking, just in case.
I was going to say, hopefully everyone else can hear me. So the interesting thing was, and which often happens with evocation, is that you forget how much the confidence aspect matters in conjuration. So the reason that obviously the lesser key and other grimoires like that really push on that is that it comes from a metaphorical dick waving exercise, which is basically saying I'm bigger and scarier and commanding in that way. So obviously for that reason, people who then second guess themselves following that method in the kind of lesser key and other grimoires is, if you're then doubting yourself, you're going to struggle to make that happen. which, you know, is a big factor within the evocation stuff, is about that confidence and actually trusting what you're capable of doing. And actually, you know, when you start to doubt yourself, which is where you get, your head gets in the way and it becomes an intellectual exercise instead of a magical one. And I think that's where some people get kind of derailed by it, thinking it through far too much, when actually you'd got some great steps already there. You should have just kept pushing, actually doing, okay, well, I got some response, so clearly I'm doing something right, rather than going to the, oh, I must have done something wrong part of that kind of dichotomy. I don't know how much of that you heard. So I don't think he's hearing me at all now.
Well, for some reason in the studio it's not working, so I'm listening on the phone. But yeah, I think
okay.
that Anyanka got on better when she went back to her approach and was going back to what she was doing.
Yeah.
And then I think she started to get more and more success. I think if she'd have been given a little bit more time, she'd definitely have cracked it. And I'm pretty sure she's probably going to carry on messing about. But the next person, obviously, we got to talk about is, so because Anyanka, we got to give 100 points to, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next person, let's say the person we're calling Jill. So
okay,
Jill,
yeah. That was a good one,
likes
too.
to send the kind of ramblings in a lot of messages, which I do love to read. And Jill got a lot of the secrets of the sigil. Did he do it through evocation, full physical manifestation? From what I'm aware of, I don't think so. But one of those people, Jill managed to get the secrets, or a lot of the secrets, but not do kind of the evocation, the physical aspect of it. So for that, Jill, you're getting 100 Thoth points, okay? Because you kind of got halfway there. Some would say you cheated. I'm not going to say you cheated. I'm thinking that you did try to go through it, but I think because of your specific areas of expertise when it comes to magic, you were pulling in too much information directly, as opposed to kind of taking that step back and having the information come to you in the form of the spirit turning up and basically telling it. And I know this is different because this is something that I struggle with myself as well, because I'm more inclined to naturally lock onto and pull in the information, and then my mind just churns on it. I think that was the approach that you kind of had. So there we go. You get 100 Thoth points. Circe's Dreamland Crest. We're giving 50 points to Circe's Dreamland. So can you kind of talk a little bit about Circe's approach?
I can, yes. I'm trying to remember exactly what. Circe's where we kept talking about